The silver ship broke through Earth's clouds, gleaming in the sunlight as it descended toward the United Nations Plaza in New York. Thousands of people watched from behind barriers, their phones recording humanity's first official alien contact. News cameras broadcast the moment to billions worldwide. "This is history," whispered President Taylor to Admiral James Wilson, who stood stiffly in his decorated uniform. After decades of sending signals to the stars, they'd finally answered. Wilson nodded but remained silent. As head of Earth's newly formed defense force, he had insisted on overseeing security for this event personally. Humanity had only achieved faster-than-light travel 6 months ago, and now aliens were landing on their doorstep. The timing made him suspicious. The ship touched down without a sound. For 30 seconds, nothing happened. Then a door slid open, revealing a tall figure with blue-tinted skin and 4 arms. Ambassador Trell of the Galactic Council stepped onto Earth soil. President Taylor stepped forward with a practiced smile. "On behalf of humanity, I welcome you to Earth." The alien bowed slightly. "The Galactic Council acknowledges Earth's achievement of basic space travel technology. We are pleased to begin the integration process of your species." The gathered diplomats exchanged glances. This wasn't the tone they had expected. Ambassador Trell continued, consulting a small device in one of his 4 hands. "Earth is classified as a Category 3 primitive species, showing promise but requiring significant guidance. The Council will provide this guidance in exchange for access to your planet's resources and agreement to follow Council law." Admiral Wilson's face darkened. President Taylor tried to maintain her diplomatic smile, but it had stiffened considerably. "Perhaps," she suggested, "we could discuss terms of mutual cooperation between equals." The alien made a sound that might have been laughter. "Equals? Your species has only just discovered principles of physics that Council races mastered millennia ago. Equality will come in time, after proper development under our guidance." Wilson stepped forward. "And if we choose to develop independently?" Ambassador Trell turned all 4 of his eyes toward the Admiral. "Independence is inefficient and potentially dangerous. The Council system has maintained galactic peace for 12,000 years by properly integrating developing species." "Integration?" Wilson asked. "Or subjugation?" "Admiral," President Taylor warned quietly. Trell waved a hand dismissively. "Your military perspective is understandable but primitive. Category 3 species often cling to outdated concepts of sovereignty before accepting the benefits of Council membership." Wilson's jaw tightened. He looked at President Taylor, then back at the alien. "With respect, Madam President, I won't stand here and listen to our species be classified like zoo animals." To the shock of everyone present, Admiral Wilson turned and walked away from the ceremony. Cameras followed him as he strode through the plaza and disappeared into a government building. Trell seemed genuinely confused. "Have I caused offense? The category system is merely scientific classification." President Taylor struggled to salvage the situation. "Ambassador, humans value their independence greatly. Perhaps we could reset this conversation and discuss how our species might work together while respecting each other's autonomy." But the damage was done. Across the world, people watched their military leader walk out on the alien delegation. Social media exploded with support for Wilson's stance. #NotCategory3 began trending globally within minutes. In the Pentagon's secure room, Wilson addressed the Joint Chiefs. "They don't see us as equals, and they never will. They want our resources and our obedience. We need to prepare alternatives to their guidance." As night fell on Earth's first contact day, humanity's path forward remained uncertain. But one thing was clear: it would not simply accept the role the Galactic Council had planned for them. The great circular chamber of the Galactic Council buzzed with angry voices. 200 representatives from across the galaxy sat in rising tiers around a central platform, where Ambassador Trell stood, head bowed in shame. "You have created a diplomatic disaster," boomed Councillor Mech, his scaled skin flashing red with anger. "How could you classify humans so openly during first contact?" Trell raised his 4 arms in a gesture of apology. I followed standard protocol. Their technological level clearly places them in Category 3. Protocol, spat Counselor Vex, the oldest member of the council. Unlike the others, Vex belonged to a species known for careful thought. Protocol is for after relations are established, not during first impressions. The council leader, a tall being named Orla, raised her hand for silence. The chamber quieted immediately. "What's done is done," she said. "Now we must decide how to handle the human situation. Trell, show us what you learned about this species." Trell activated a holographic display in the center of the chamber. Images of Earth appeared, its cities, weapons, and people. Humans have only achieved faster than light travel this year, but their development rate is concerning, Trell explained. They advanced from primitive flight to space travel in just 66 years. No other species in our records has progressed so quickly. The display showed human history, their wars, their rapid technological growth, their adaptability. Most troubling is their military thinking, Trell continued. Even their peaceful achievements often come from military research. And this human, Admiral Wilson, who walked out of our meeting. He is now being treated as a hero by their media. Counselor Mech stood up. The solution is simple. We must isolate them until they learn respect. Block their ships from traveling beyond their solar system. And if they resist? Asked Vex quietly. Then we show them the consequences of defying the council, Mech answered, to murmurs of approval from many members. Vex rose slowly to his feet, his ancient body barely able to stand. I have seen this before. 3,000 years ago, we tried to isolate the Kreth. They responded by developing weapons that nearly destroyed 2 council worlds before we contained them. He pointed a bony finger at the hologram of Earth. These humans, they are like the Kreth, but faster, more adaptive. Isolation will only make them more dangerous when they eventually break free. The chamber fell silent as the council contemplated this warning. Counselor Orla spoke after a long pause. "What do you suggest, Vex?" "Send a diplomatic fleet," Vex said. "Enough ships to show our strength, but with clear instructions to negotiate rather than threaten. We must convince humans to join us willingly." Mech laughed. "Negotiate? With Category 3 primitives who have already rejected us?" "Yes," Vex replied firmly. "Because these primitives might someday become our equals, or worse, our superiors." The council voted after hours of debate. By a narrow margin, they approved Vex's plan. A diplomatic fleet would be sent to Earth, led by Commander Draz, known for his balanced approach. As the council members filed out, Vex approached Trell privately. "You showed them human warfare, but did you study their diplomacy? Their alliances?" Trell looked confused. "Why would I? Their global politics are primitive compared to ours." Vex sighed. "That is why you failed, and why Draz might fail too. These humans, their history shows they fight hardest when cornered, but build strongest when treated as equals." As Vex walked away, Trell looked again at the hologram of Admiral Wilson. For the first time, he felt something new when thinking about humans. Admiral Wilson stood before the United Earth Defense Council, composed of leaders from every major nation. The room was tense as satellite images displayed on the main screen showed alien ships gathering at the edge of the solar system. "They call it a diplomatic fleet," Wilson said, pointing to the formation of vessels. "But we count 20 warships among them. This is not just about talking." President Taylor nodded. "The question is, what do we do about it? We have only 12 ships with FTL capability." Wilson walked to the center of the room. "Quality over quantity. Our ships may be fewer, but they're built differently. The aliens rely on energy weapons and standard tactics. We've designed our ships with Earth's military history in mind. Surprise, adaptation, and unconventional thinking." "Show them," ordered the president. Wilson activated a hologram showing Earth's newest ship, the EDF Resistance. Unlike the elegant alien vessels, it looked rugged and practical. While Ambassador Trell was lecturing us, we were scanning his ship. the gifts he left behind. We've taken them apart and learned how they work. Their shield technology has a weakness. It's optimized against their own weapons, not ours. The Chinese premier leaned forward. You're suggesting we can fight the most advanced species in the galaxy? No, Wilson replied. I'm suggesting we can surprise them enough to earn their respect. The Russian president stood up. My nation will commit its entire space program to this effort. Better to fight in space than wait for them to land. One by one, each nation pledged resources. Old enemies became partners under the shadow of alien ships. Meanwhile, in a secure lab beneath the Rocky Mountains, Dr. Emily Reed worked with a team of scientists examining the alien technology. It's incredible, she told Wilson during his inspection. Their systems are advanced, but predictable. They haven't innovated in centuries. It's like they found a formula that works and stopped trying to improve it. Wilson watched as she demonstrated how Earth weapons could penetrate alien shields. How soon can we upgrade our fleet? 2 weeks for the basic modifications, she answered. A month for the full package. We might not have a month, Wilson said grimly. Later that day, Wilson met with a small group in a secure room, representatives from other Category 3 species who had secretly contacted Earth after news of the diplomatic rejection spread. The delegate from Proxima Centauri, a being named Kel, spoke first. Your stance against the Council has given hope to many worlds. We've lived under their guidance for generations. They take our resources and give us scraps of technology in return. Can you provide any tactical information about their fleet? Wilson asked. Kel smiled, or at least Wilson thought it was a smile. Better. We can provide pilots who know how they fight, engineers who understand their weaknesses, and ships to join yours when the time comes. For the first time since the aliens arrived, Wilson felt a surge of hope. Earth wouldn't face this alone. As the meeting concluded, Wilson's assistant entered with urgent news. Admiral, the alien fleet has crossed Neptune's orbit. Their commander requests to speak with Earth's leadership. They'll be in Earth orbit within 3 days. Wilson nodded. Tell President Taylor to prepare for the meeting. And get me Dr. Reed. We need those weapon modifications now. Across Earth, factories worked around the clock. Soldiers trained for space combat. Scientists reverse-engineered alien technology. And humanity prepared to show the galaxy it would not be categorized, controlled, or conquered. Commander Draz stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Galactic Unity, as it entered Earth orbit. The blue planet filled the view screen, beautiful but troubling. Intelligence reports showed increased activity at human space facilities. They were preparing for something. Open communication with their leaders, Draz ordered. On Earth, President Taylor sat at the head of a long table in the United Nations building. Admiral Wilson stood beside her with other military and political leaders from around the world. A large screen showed Commander Draz, tall, with golden skin and eyes that seemed to glow with inner light. Greetings, Earth leaders, Draz began, his voice smooth and controlled. I come representing the full authority of the Galactic Council. We regret the misunderstanding during first contact. President Taylor nodded. We appreciate this opportunity to start fresh, Commander. Draz smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. The Council has carefully considered Earth's situation. We are prepared to offer membership with special considerations for your unique development path. You will receive technology, protection, and limited autonomy within Council space. And what do you expect in return? Wilson asked directly. Resource sharing, compliance with Council regulations, and permission for Council observers to monitor your military development, Draz replied. Standard terms for new members. President Taylor leaned forward. And if we prefer independence while establishing trade relations as equals? Draz's expression hardened. Independence is not an option. Unregulated species present risks to galactic stability. The Council has authorized me to impose sanctions if necessary. Sanctions? Wilson asked. Restriction of your vessels to this solar system. Quarantine beacons to warn other species away from Earth. confiscation of any human ships found in Council space. The Earth leaders exchanged glances. This was the threat they had prepared for. President Taylor stood up. "Commander Draz, we will need to discuss your terms privately." "You have 24 hours to accept Council protection," Draz replied. "After that, sanctions begin." The screen went dark. Wilson turned to President Taylor. "It's time to show them our response." 6 hours later, as Draz waited on his flagship, sensors detected movement from Earth. Not one or two ships, but an entire fleet rising from hidden bases on Earth, the Moon, and Mars. "Impossible," Draz whispered as the count reached 30 vessels. Intelligence had reported only 12 human ships with FTL capability. These new ships were smaller but numerous, and their design was unlike anything in Council records. Even more shocking were the 5 non-human vessels that joined the Earth fleet, ships from other Category 3 species that the Council thought were fully under control. "Sir," his second-in-command reported, "we're detecting unusual energy signatures from the human vessels. They've modified their weapons systems with, I'm not sure what." Draz gripped the arms of his command chair. The diplomatic mission was rapidly becoming a potential military confrontation, exactly what Councillor Vex had warned against. The communication system activated. Admiral Wilson appeared on screen, now wearing a full Space Command uniform. "Commander Draz, Earth has considered your offer. We decline to be a protected species. However, we propose an alternative, mutual recognition between Earth and the Council as independent powers, with a neutral zone established for cultural and technological exchange." Behind Wilson, the Earth fleet spread out in a defensive formation just beyond weapons range. "This is not how Council integration works," Draz replied, fighting to keep his voice steady. Wilson smiled. "Then perhaps it's time for the Council's methods to evolve. You have 6 hours to consider our counter-proposal." As the communication ended, Draz realized the Council's greatest fear was coming true. Humans weren't just rejecting diplomacy. They were rewriting the rules of galactic politics. The 6-hour deadline was minutes from expiring. Commander Draz paced the bridge of his flagship, considering his options. The human counter-proposal sat on his screen, challenging centuries of Council procedure. "Sir," his tactical officer called, "2 human scout ships are approaching the neutral zone." Draz frowned. "Monitor them, but take no action." On the lead scout ship, Captain Linda Martinez watched her sensor readings carefully. "Their weapons systems are powered but not targeting," she reported to Admiral Wilson via secure channel. "They're nervous but disciplined." Wilson's voice came through her headset. "Maintain position. We need to see how they react to ships near their perimeter." Martinez guided her small vessel in a careful pattern along the edge of the neutral zone, gathering data on the alien fleet's sensor capabilities. The second scout ship, commanded by Captain Raj Patel, mirrored her movements on the opposite side of the alien formation. Suddenly, alarms blared on Martinez's ship. "Energy spike from an alien vessel," her sensor officer shouted. "There." A bright beam lashed out from one of the smaller Council ships, striking Martinez's shields. The scout ship rocked violently. "We're hit," Martinez reported, struggling to stabilize her vessel, shield holding at 70%. She quickly checked her systems. "We did not cross the neutral zone boundary." "Repeat, we remained in international space." Inside the Council flagship, Draz roared with anger. "Who fired?" "I gave no order." His second-in-command looked up from the tactical display. "The Vigilant fired, sir. Captain Krez claims the human vessel was scanning our weapons systems. An aggressive act." "Fools," Draz hissed. He opened a channel to all ships. "Hold fire. This is a diplomatic." Before he could finish, 12 human vessels surged forward, weapons hot. They moved in an unpredictable pattern, not the standard formation taught at the Council Academy. Evasive maneuvers. Draz ordered as the first human weapons fire streaked across space. What happened next shocked every Council officer watching. The human weapons, primitive projectiles, and missiles modified with salvaged alien technology, passed directly through the Council ship's shields as if they weren't there. Impossible. Draz's weapons officer shouted. Their kinetic weapons shouldn't penetrate our energy shields. In his command center on Earth, Admiral Wilson watched the battle unfold with grim satisfaction. Dr. Reed's modifications worked, he said to President Taylor, who stood beside him. Their shields are calibrated to stop energy weapons, not physical objects moving at relativistic speeds. The Council ships scrambled to adjust their defenses, but 3 of their smaller vessels had already suffered significant damage. The human ships moved with unexpected agility, using the moon's gravity to slingshot into attack positions that Council tactical doctrine had never accounted for. After 20 minutes of chaotic fighting, Draz ordered his fleet to pull back to regroup. 4 Council ships were disabled, while the humans had lost only 1 vessel. Admiral, President Taylor said quietly, we've made our point. Let them retreat. Wilson nodded and sent the stand-down order to the fleet. As the Council ships withdrew to a safer distance, Draz received a private communication from Counselor Vex all the way from the Council homeworld. I warned the Council not to underestimate them, Vex said, his ancient face solemn. These humans don't fight like we do. They don't think like we do. What do you suggest? Draz asked, watching the human fleet resume defensive positions around Earth. Talk to them as equals, Vex replied. Before the Council sends the main battle fleet, which I assure you they are preparing as we speak. As the transmission ended, Draz looked out at the blue planet. For the first time in his long career, he faced a species that had not only rejected Council authority, but had the capability to challenge it. The galaxy was about to change forever. The great chamber of the Galactic Council erupted into chaos. Representatives shouted over each other as news of the military defeat spread through the room. The holographic display in the center showed the damaged Council ships limping back from Earth. This is unprecedented, shouted Counselor Mech, his scales now flashing between red and purple with rage. A Category 3 species has attacked Council vessels and caused damage to our fleet. Council leader Orla raised her hands for silence, but the noise only grew louder. Species that had lived in peace for thousands of years now faced something they had never expected. A genuine challenge to their authority. We must crush them immediately, declared the representative from the Torgal Imperium, a militaristic species that had joined the Council only 500 years ago. Send the main battle fleet. Show these primitives the true might of the Council. On a balcony above the main floor, Ambassador Trell watched with growing concern. His failure during first contact had started this crisis, and now it threatened to explode into full-scale war. They don't understand what they're dealing with, said a quiet voice beside him. Trell turned to find Counselor Vex, the oldest member of the Council, standing in the shadows. The humans? Trell asked. No, Vex replied, pointing to the shouting representatives below. Them. They don't understand humans. Meanwhile, reports flooded in from across the galaxy. Other Category 3 worlds had begun refusing Council inspectors entry to their planets. Some had even disabled the quarantine beacons that marked their systems as restricted. A junior aide rushed to Council leader Orla, whispering urgently in her ear. Her expression darkened as she called for emergency silence. We have a new development, she announced when the room finally quieted. The Proxima Centauri system, the Tav City colonies, and 3 other Category 3 worlds have formally declared alliance with Earth. They are calling it the Free Systems Compact. Fresh shouting erupted. The Council had never faced a coordinated rebellion across multiple star systems. In a secure communication room far from the main chamber, Counselor Vex activated a private quantum link, one that bypassed the Council's monitoring systems. After several security checks, Admiral Wilson's face appeared on the screen. I have little time, Vex said quickly. The Council has voted. They are sending the main battle fleet, 300 ships, to make an example of Earth. They will arrive in 15 standard days. Wilson's expression remained calm. Why are you telling me this, counselor? Because I have watched the council grow complacent and arrogant. For centuries, I've argued for reform, for treating developing species as future partners rather than subjects. Now you humans have done what my words could not. You've shown that the council can be challenged. What do you suggest we do against 300 ships? Wilson asked. Fight in your way, not theirs, Vex replied. And no, you are not alone. Many within the council secretly support your stand, though few dare say it openly. As Vex ended the transmission, he turned to find Ambassador Trell watching from the doorway. That was treason, Trell said quietly. Vex nodded. Perhaps, or perhaps it was the first step towards saving the council from itself. Trell considered this, then made his decision. The fleet commander, my cousin, serves on his staff. I can provide details of their battle plans. Across the galaxy, the balance of power was shifting. The mighty Galactic Council, unchallenged for 12,000 years, now faced not just a rebellious Earth, but a crisis of confidence. Category 3 worlds watched Earth's defiance with hope. Council members questioned centuries of protocol, and battle lines were being drawn. And at the center of it all, humanity prepared for a fight that would determine the future of the galaxy. 15 days passed quickly. Earth's sky filled with ships, not just human vessels, but allies from across the galaxy. Ships from Proxima Centauri, Tau Ceti, and other former Category 3 worlds gathered in a defensive formation around the solar system. Admiral Wilson stood on the bridge of the EDF Defiance, Earth's newest and largest warship. The tactical display showed the approaching Council fleet, a massive armada of 300 vessels that had just entered the outer solar system. They're exactly where Ambassador Trell said they would be, Wilson's second-in-command noted. The intelligence was good. Wilson nodded. Begin Operation New Dawn. Across the solar system, hidden installations activated on asteroids, moons, and artificial satellites. Not weapons, but massive communication arrays. Technology developed in secret with help from their new allies. The Council fleet approached in perfect formation, confident in their superior numbers. Their commander, Admiral Grell, was known for his strict adherence to Council military doctrine. Overwhelming force applied according to centuries-old tactics. The enemy fleet is scattered and disorganized, Grell observed from his command ship. Just as expected from primitives. Prepare to launch fighters on my command. His tactical officer frowned at his console. Sir, we're detecting unusual energy readings from throughout the system. They appear to be communication signals, but unlike any we've seen before. Before Grell could respond, his view screen activated without command. The face of Admiral Wilson appeared simultaneously on the bridge of every Council ship. This is Admiral James Wilson of Earth. I'm broadcasting to every vessel in your fleet. Your commanders are trying to block this transmission, but they can't. That should tell you something about the technology gap you believe exists between us. Across the Council fleet, confused officers watched as Wilson continued. Look at your tactical displays. You'll see you're not just facing Earth, but a coalition of formerly subjugated species. We all refuse to be classified as inferior. We all demand the right to determine our own futures. On the Council flagship, Admiral Grell roared in anger. Cut this transmission. Prepare to attack. But something unexpected was happening throughout his fleet. Crews from Category 3 worlds serving on Council ships were listening. Many had been conscripted into service, told it was their duty to the greater galactic community. Wilson's next words changed everything. We don't want war. We want recognition of our right to exist as equals. Today, you have a choice. Continue fighting for a system that classifies you by your birth planet, or join us in creating something new. A galaxy where advancement is earned, not assigned. On 27 Council ships, crew members from Category 3 worlds suddenly disabled weapon systems. On 12 more, captains ordered their vessels to stand down. What is happening? demanded Grell as his fleet's perfect formation disintegrated. When the battle finally came, it wasn't what anyone expected. The Council fleet, divided and confused, faced not just human ingenuity but a coalition united by a common cause. Earth's ships used tactics no Council commander had ever seen, attacking from impossible angles, using the solar system itself as a weapon. 2 hours later, Admiral Grell surrendered. His remaining ships, damaged and outmaneuvered, powered down weapons as Wilson's coalition surrounded them. 1 month later, on the Galactic Council homeworld, a new chamber was prepared. For the first time in 12,000 years, the Council Charter was rewritten. Category classifications were abolished. Earth and its allies took seats as full members with equal voting rights. Councillor Vex, now leading the Reformed Council, addressed the historic gathering. Today marks a new era. We learned a valuable lesson from humans. Progress comes not from controlling others, but from embracing diversity of thought. The galaxy is stronger when all voices are heard as equals. Admiral Wilson, now Earth's official representative, looked around the chamber and smiled. Sometimes rejection was just the beginning of something better.